Hi students, I am Dr. M. Ashraf Majroor, Professor of Community Medicine. I welcome you in the learning session of International Health Regulation and Integrated Disease Surveillance and Response. This is the third lecture of International Health Series. Before discussion on this session, I will like to have the recap and the context. The first session of international health was focused on evolution of global health, establishment of WHO and its structures and function. In second session, the global health agenda was covered under the Health for All by the year 2000 and primary health care, Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals. The present session is focused on international health regulation and integrated disease surveillance and response system at subnational, national and international level. So let us have the highlights of today's session. The international linkage in context of health, the international health regulation, integrated disease surveillance and response system, IHR and IDSR situation in Pakistan, role of international health regulation and integrated disease surveillance and response to combat recent pandemic of COVID-19. So let us discuss the highlights one by one. So first of all, we will talk about the traditional global linkage from last couple of centuries. These linkage were settled among various organizations. These are the international disease notifications and sharing of epidemics and pandemics and donor support, technical and financial assistance, the international traveling and trade policies. This is a very complex web of global linkage in context to health and human needs. Let us see what is this web of linkage. So the first, again, the epidemics and pandemics are the main source of linkage, traditional linkage, and now it has added the public health emergency of international concerns. That means these are the linkage related to health beyond the diseases, specific diseases. Then the supply of medicine and equipment, and again the travel and trades provides the linkage, and then medical education, and then other is the environmental health issues which are common to the global level, and the protection of the planet is the common responsibility. Then the humanitarian organization, NGOs, international non-government organizations and the subnational government organizations, they have the interlinkage. So when we see these linkage, and the complexity of international linkage necessitate the ethical codes, rules and regulation of global relationships for health and human needs. So this is the basis for the international health regulation and integrated disease surveillance and response. Let us see complexity into another way, that is the one word and one health. An interdisciplinary, holistic and integrated approach to health problem, the disease and other threats resulting from climatic changes, food safety, chemical hazards, constitute a complex set of challenging events involving human, animals, and environmental health. So these are addressed under the These commonalities are addressed under the slogan One World, One Health. Now the international health regulations. What is international health regulation? It is formally a ratified legal document by World Health Assembly. The document provides legal cover for prevention and control international spread of diseases and health risks without unnecessary interference in travel and trade. The document, it is 82-page document, consists of 66 articles, 10 parts, 9 annexures and 2 appendix. These annexure and appendix are basically the supportive document for the criterion defined in the health regulations. The IHR was promulgated and enforced from 15 June 2007. Now, the objective, intent and scope of the international health regulation. If we talk about the objective and intent, the objective is to prevent and control the international spread of diseases in ways that are restricted to public health risks and which avoid unnecessary interference with the international traffic and trade. The intent in this case is not to interfere with the international traffic and trades and focus on the public health risks. So this is the intent. Now let's see the scope of the IHR. Scope is not limited to any specific disease or manner of transmission, but apply to new and ever-changing public health risks. It covers illness or medical condition, irrespective of origin source, that present or could present significant harm to humans. If we see the key landmark in IHR development, and it starts from 1951 to 2007 when the latest amendment in the already existing IHR was approved and implemented. So the event can be discussed one by one. If we see in 1951 there was International Sanitary Conference held in Paris in Fourth World Health Assembly, and it approved the International Sanitary Regulation. So this was the International Sanitary Regulation was the first landmark, but this sanitary regulation was restricted to the quarantine of the 6 diseases. Then regular international health regulation was adopted by World Health Assembly, initially covering the quarantine for the 6 communicable diseases. Later on, the communicable diseases, the list of communicable diseases under IHR was reduced to 3 diseases, that was the yellow fever, plague and the cholera. So this was the period when smallpox was eradicated. On the other hand, the SARS was the first global public health emergency of 21st century. The international health regulation extended beyond the communicable diseases, and it was included now public health emergency of international concern. In 2005, in 58th World Health Assembly, the regulation of international health regulation was ratified and known as IHR 2005. But they were implemented, formally enforced from 15th June 2007 and up to present days. This is the legal document which is implemented. So we will talk about the salient features of this international health regulation. The salient features of International Health Regulation 2005 The IHR 2005 also provide the legal basis for important health outcome applicable to international travel, transport, and sanitary protections for the users of international airports, ports, and the ground crossings. So then the obligation on the state parties to notify World Health Organization of the events that may constitute public health emergency of international concern, which is abbreviated as PHEIC according to the defined criteria. We will discuss this defined criteria in the forthcoming slides. The state party have the obligation to develop certain minimum core public health capacities for implementation of IHR. So we will also discuss these core capacities. And then the provision authorizing WHO to take into consideration unofficial report of public health events and obtain verification from the state parties concerning such events. And the WHO has its own epidemic intelligence from open sources, EIOS. And in case of COVID-19, the EIOS from Wuhan city reported the cluster of pneumonia cases in China, and this was the confirmed the intelligence. And this was the first, and this was the application of IHR on and the COVID-19. Procedure for determination by Director General of Public Health Emergency of International Concern, protection of the human rights of the person and the travelers. The other feature, the establishment of national IHR focal points and WHO IHR contact points for urgent communication between the parties and the WHO. Then we can compare the IHR from the present 2007 and from 1951 to 2000 before the amendment. If we compare the scope of the regulation was restricted to the diseases like cholera, plague, yellow fever, smallpox, and the smallpox was also removed after the eradication. Now the scope has been enhanced to public health emergency of international concern, and it is not limited to a specific disease. It includes illness and medical conditions. And it also support for detection and containment at the source. While previously the control was restricted to the borders of the country. And if we compare the communication and the country's fax report to WHO was the method of communication in IHR, national focal points, NFP, and WHO secures websites are the modes of communication. If we compare the notification, the reports to WHO within 24 hours, and now the reports to WHO within 24 hours and after 72 hours to respond to follow-up request can also be pursued. If we compare the coordination and response in previous regulation and present, no mechanism of coordination of international response to curtail the disease. But here, through national focal point of WHO, the response is quick and the assistance is also provided in the form of recommendation and control measures. If we compare the authority, the WHO not able to initiate an inquiry dependence on official country notification. On the other hand, in IHR, WHO can initiate the request for information based on unofficial sources and can ask for additional information. And the national capacities, the capacity provide disease inspection and control at port entry only. But now it provide the disease inspection and control at port of the entry, meet minimum core capacities for detection and reporting and assessment of the epidemics and health alert events. So this was the comparison of IHR before 2007 and after 2007. There were remarkable changes and amendment in the international health regulation. On the other hand, the public health emergency of international concern have many domains and categories. And if we look at these categories, the diseases which are already under IHR surveillance, and these are, for example, smallpox in previously, and poliomyelitis in these days. Similarly, the human influenza caused by new subtype SARS. These are one domain which are which can trigger the PHEIC. And then there are high epidemic potential diseases, for example, cholera, plague, yellow fever, viral hemorrhagic fever, and COVID-19. These are high potential epidemic diseases. They can generate, trigger the public health emergency of international concern. The other principal causes of mortality, they are also included the pneumonia, diarrheal diseases, tuberculosis, HIV, AIDS, maternal deaths and injuries. The other group that can trigger the PHEIC is non-communicable diseases, priorities in the regions, high blood pressure, diabetes, mellitus, mental health and malnutrition. The other diseases which have effective control, for which effective control is available, they may also be included in the domain. For example, onchocerciasis and trypanosomiasis. And lastly, the program under WHO, for example, EPI and IMCI, integrated maternal, neonatal and child health illnesses, they are included in the domain. So these are various domains of PHEIC category. Now, core competency desired in international health regulations. Under IHR, member states are legally bound to detect and report events that may constitute a potential public health emergency of international concern on a 24-hour basis, 7 days a week, through their national IHR focal points. Then the core competency needs the national legislation policies, and they must be aligned to implement IHR and IDSR. The coordination and communication must be strengthened, and surveillance system must be strengthened, and response system must be strengthened to implement the international health regulation and international disease surveillance and response. There must be preparedness as in line with the IHR, IDSR, risk communications, human resource capacity development and recruitment, and laboratory strengthening. This is a prerequisite for the states and the national government to strengthen their system to implement the IHR. Then we will talk about the integrated disease surveillance and response, IDSR. If we talk about the IDSR, the several activities are combined into one integrated activity, and take the advantage of similar surveillance functions, skills, resources, and target populations. The district level is the focus for the integrated surveillance functions. This is because the district is the pivot of district level health system with physical and human resources like staff. So this is the district level integration IDSR system. We will talk more about the IDSR, the implementation of IDSR. In IDSR, surveillance activities and resources are coordinated and streamlined with the global and using health data for the public health action. The key strategy in this area include the surveillance system strengthening and laboratory strengthening, the training and capacity development of the staff and the resources, monitoring and evaluation system, and advocacy of the stakeholders. Um, these are the prerequisites for the implementation of IDSR. Now, if we talk about the implementation model, there are the health, and the pillar is the healthcare delivery system, and then the public health authorities. The alert and outbreak events are reported in the routine healthcare delivery system, and these reports must be shared with the public health authorities, which have a coordinated team consisting of multidisciplinary human resources. And then this team will analyze and interpret the data and generate the information regarding, confirm the level of outbreak and alertness events, and then make the decision and respond and propose the intervention, and then the expected change can be brought. So this is the model system at the every level of health system, and the basic unit is the district health system, where this IDSR system is implemented, and then it is coordinated with the provincial and national health system, and then ultimately the data is projected to the international level. Let us see the data transmission chain. If we see the data transmission chain, the district level IDSR system will consolidate at the provincial IDSR system, and then the data from the entry point of airports, and then national IDSR system will coordinate with the WHO CDC integrated disease surveillance and response. So if we talk about this district, there is a district surveillance team, and there is a lab at district level for data reporting, and this data is then shared with the provincial level, and the provincial surveillance team, lab, and the data reporting system are there. And then there are health authorities at entry points, airports. There are quarantine centers at airport, and civil aviation authorities are there, and shipping agencies are there. They are the stakeholders for the international travel and restriction of movements of the suspects. Then at national level, there is a reference lab in many countries, and the surveillance team at national level, data reporting and dashboard systems, WHO, local WHO and focal points, national WHO national focal points, and international non-government organization or health agencies, which are always supporting to WHO, the sister organization and they are very sportive, and they also help at national level, and then this all is coordinated up to the international WHO CDC level, and this is the data reporting and feedback. Here I can give example. The first COVID was reported from the district health system, where the municipal health commissioner first in his media talk disclosed the cluster of 27 pneumonia cases, and then this was ultimately projected to WHO CDC, and the CDC team investigated all this COVID-19 pandemic. We will see the role of IHR in in combating the worldwide pandemic of COVID-19 in the last session. And then if we look at the international health regulation and disease integrated disease surveillance and response, they are mutually synergizing each other. And if we look at the role of IHR, it provides a cover to implement the IDSR. A requirement for meeting core surveillance and response capacities is through the IHR. And if we see IDSR, a strategy for strengthening surveillance, laboratory and response capacities at each level of health system, which I have described in the last slide. So this will help to detect, confirm and verify, notify and report and timely respond the diseases or epidemics and pandemics. So this is the mutual interaction of mutual relationship of IHR and IDSR. Now, steps for IHR and IDSR implementation. The first step is identifying priority diseases, conditions and events of public health emergency of international concern. Then these PHIC events are reported to public health authorities. The public health authorities analyze and interpret the findings. They investigate and confirm the suspect cases, outbreaks, or the events of alert. Then they strategize for the implementation and appropriate preventive actions. Then ultimately they activate the public health response, and then provide feedback, and then evaluate and improve the system for dealing with the public health emergency of international concern. So this is these are the steps for implementation of IHR and IDSR. Now the situational analysis. If we do the situational analysis, we have to see at both national and provincial level the engagement of the relevant sector is desired for the situational analysis, and engagement of relevant stakeholder is needed. Identify the key barrier and constraint to IDSR functioning. Assess the current performance of IDSR system. Identify priority actions for IDSR strengthening. So this is how the situational analysis is done for IDSR. Now let us see the IDSR situation in Pakistan. The situation is not very encouraging. There is fragmentation of implementation due to vertical systems. District level lab network is not functional in most of the districts, and health resources deficiency, both medics and paramedics at district and provincial level. No coordination and access to private sector. These evaluations were done with the coordination of Public Health England team in Pakistan, and These are the important findings. There was poor synergy among the stakeholders and ineffective risk communication. The revision of Public Health Surveillance and Response Act is desired in 2010 Act. There are some international health stakeholders which are helping for implementation of IHR and IDSR compliance. These are the United Nations itself, and the WHO is working under the umbrella of UN, and the International Labour Organization, Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO), International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA), International Civil Aviation Organization, International Maritime Organization, International Committee of Red Cross, International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, International Air Transport Association, International Shipping Federation, and Office of International Des Episodity. These are the various organizations which are supporting stakeholders in implementation of IHR. Now, IHR situation in Pakistan. The Pakistan after signing in 2008, but it is lacking the enforcement and the desired capacities not yet developed. Limited public health capacities, devolution through 18th Amendment was done, but the health systems are in the transitions. There are gaps in intersectoral coordination. Departments of Food and Agriculture, Fisheries, Livestock, Tourism, Education, Transport, Defense, Finance, and Communication departments. And due to these reasons, Pakistan asked for strengthening of their system for extension of implementation, and first extension was granted till June 9, 2014, and second extension till June 2016. The role of IHR to combat COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic events, they are all under the vigilance of WHO, and all the modalities of IHR and IDSR were used in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. If we see series of events starting from 31st December to today, 2nd June, the day I am talking to you, the events include: first, WHO's country office notified IHR focal point from Western Pacific region office about the Wuhan city of China, and the Municipal Health Commissioner media briefing on the cluster of 27 pneumonia cases. And the similar reports were verified by the epidemic intelligence from open sources of WHO. Then if we see next, the CDC, sister UN organization agency, confirmed the coronavirus causative agent SARS-CoV-2 on January 2020, 9 January 2020. Then in 20 January, the outside China country is reported the cases from Thailand, Japan, and Korea to the regional WHO office, and similarly the European office was also reported. The case was reported. First case was reported from France, and who was having the travel history from China. Then this red block is showing when the DG WHO declared public health emergency of international concern and assured the technical and financial support to the countries affected by the COVID-19. Then coronavirus disease 19 by SARS-CoV-2 was named as COVID-19 on 11th February 2020. And there is another landmark when COVID-19 was declared as a world pandemic by WHO. And today, while I am talking, the live dashboard of WHO has been established, and it is showing more than 10 million cases and more than 0.5 million deaths up till now worldwide. So a lot of things are more required for to combat the coronavirus, COVID-19, and the WHO is putting effort for this and providing financial as well as the technical assistance for to combat the COVID-19. Now, why the COVID-19 declared public health emergency of international concern? As I have mentioned, the IHR document provides the criteria for assessment of PHEIC. And what is that criteria? Is the public health impact of the event is serious? And is the event unusual or unexpected? Is there significant risk of international spread? Is there a significant risk of international travel or trade restriction? So these four questions are asked in the criteria. And is the public health impact was serious? Certainly, the answer is yes. Is the event unusual or unexpected? Yes, of course. Is there a significant risk of international spread? Yes, of course. Similarly, is there significant risk of international travel or trade restriction? Yes. So the criteria speaks like this. If the answer yes is yes to two of the criteria required, a member state can notify the WHO as public health emergency of international concern. So now, no doubt, these all events has been occurred, and the COVID-19 has been declared as PHEIC. Now, a disease declared as PHEIC, as I have mentioned, yes. And then WHO has declared COVID as pandemic. Again, it is yes. Morbidity is notified as per confirmed disease criteria. Yes. International mapping of morbidity, mortality, and exposure level. The WHO has live dashboard and persistently updating about the data and the trends of the pandemic. The WHO is also providing financial and technical assistance to the affected states. So the technical assistance is provided by WHO, and the financial assistance through the allied organization like World Bank and International Monetary Fund. They are giving relaxation through the grant in aids and rescheduling of the debt. There is a complex web of international relationship for health that necessitate the legal cover for prevention and control of health risks. IHR and IDSR provide formal course of action to combat the public health emergencies of international concern. National governments should align their health systems according to IDSR guideline under the cover of IHR. Health is a collective responsibility of communities, subnational, national governments, and international stakeholders. So this is about the IHR and IDSR. Thank you for sparing your time.